Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Curios in Time. My name is Brad Berger, and I'd like to take you to the era of World War II this time. June 6, 1944, the Normandy invasion, D-Day, Operation Overlord. It's marked London, United Kingdom, because chiefly I'd like to talk about the leadership that went behind the landings in 1944 that established that second front in Europe. Chiefly the leadership ability of General Dwight David Eisenhower. This is one of my favorite images of General Eisenhower. It is a post-war image. However, I think it is a very good one to convey his abilities as a Supreme Allied commander, juggling very strong personalities as he had to do during World War II. You can see him right between two of these very strong personalities indeed, in the form of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill on the left and British Field Marshal Bernard Law Montgomery on the right. Now, Field Marshal Montgomery had a very high praise for General Eisenhower, and I quote, "His real strength lies in his human qualities. He has the power of drawing the hearts of men toward him as a magnet attracts the bit of metal. He merely has to smile at you and you trust him at once." This is just a bit of the ways that General Eisenhower had to deal with stress and leadership and overseeing this great operation. But it was clearly conveyed to Field Marshal Montgomery that General Eisenhower had a very, very strong ability to lead. Despite the trust that many others had in General Eisenhower, he is going to deal with stress in varied ways, such as smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day. And he also had a very interesting way that he would deal with stress in another very unique method, and that involves the desk in front of him. And I quote, "I make it a practice to avoid hating anyone. If someone's been guilty of despicable actions, especially toward me, I try to forget him. I used to follow a practice somewhat contrived. I admit to write the man's name on a piece of scrap paper, drop it in the lowest drawer of my desk, and say to myself, that finishes the incident, and so far as I'm concerned, that fellow." The drawer became, over the years, sort of private wastebasket for crumbled up spite and discarded personalities. We can see the varied methods that General Eisenhower used to overcome the great strain and stress of what Operation Overlord and its planning would actually come to be. Another thing that is going to help General Eisenhower is his chief of staff. He is going to have the ability to deflect in the form of Lieutenant General Walter Beadle Smith here, someone who is going to be able to act as kind of a shield for General Eisenhower and convey messages for him when he might be under certain temperaments that he doesn't necessarily want to convey, because General Eisenhower dealt with stress in a way. We saw smoking, writing people's names in desks. He would also do his very best to give that sense, however, that everything was sunny, everything was cheerful, and he was an optimist. What he'd like to do was to give that sense of showing not only the public, but also the troops, that he had that confidence that he was going to help give to them. If they needed some kind of pick-me-up, he was going to give it to them. I'd like to give you another quote here. "I firmly determined that my mannerisms and speech in public would always reflect the cheerful certainty of victory, that any pessimism, discouragement I might ever feel would be reserved for my pillow. I adopted a policy of circulating through the whole force to the full limit imposed by physical considerations. I did my best to meet everyone, from general to private, with a smile, a pat on the back, and definite interest in his problems." He is conveying to these men who the next day are going to have to make landings, land, sea, and air, sense that everything is going to be all right. This isn't necessarily a motivational speech he's giving in this particular picture, but he is talking to these men about fly fishing. He's giving that sense of relatability, that I'm one of you, and this is going to help an awful lot, and this relatability is going to be one of his great leadership qualities. Another aspect of his leadership was deflection of intelligence that led the Germans to believe that the landings would actually take place at Calais, not too far from Dover. You can see the English coast just across the channel there. This landing at Calais was believed by the German High Command to be conducted from East Anglia, the east coast of England. A phantom army was created, made of plywood and inflatable rubber. That was a deflection, if you will, a ghost that the German Air Force would see as it flew over East Anglia, taking photographs. This phantom army that was arrayed on the fields of East Anglia was to be commanded by General George Patton, and it was believed that Patton was going to take this force and land at Calais. However, this ruse absolutely worked. General Eisenhower and the High Command are going to establish that the landings would not take place at Calais via East Anglia and led by General Patton, but here in Cherbourg, their combined American, British, and Canadian force that will land on the beaches on June 6, 1944. Men trudging ashore on the beaches here are going to lose many that day. Over 4,000 dead, American, British, and Canadian, are going to establish the beachhead and break Hitler's Western Wall, setting up a second front that is going to ultimately lead to the collapse of the Third Reich. General Eisenhower, in his leadership abilities, is going to not only deal with that stress personally that he felt in leading up to the D-Day invasions, but he is going to find a way to also have something in his hip pocket just in case something didn't go right. General Eisenhower is going to say, quote, that leadership consists of nothing but taking responsibility for everything that goes wrong and giving your subordinates credit for everything that goes well, end quote. And that is going to be summed up here in the D-Day failure notice. Fortunately, it's something that General Eisenhower never had to read over the radio waves to those in the West, but he is going to have this. You can see it's mistakenly marked July 5th, but he wrote it on June 5th. 1944, day before the landings took place. The note read, "Our landings in the Cherbourg Havre area have failed to gain a foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based upon the best information available. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." Ladies and gentlemen, this is what makes a great leader. And this is what made so many people devoted to this gentleman and led to the victories that are going to lead up to the end of World War II in Europe. I would like to share with you many more stories over the next few weeks. This is a very special one as we are in June, the month of June, and have just observed the anniversary of D-Day. I wanted to tip my hat to General Eisenhower and to all of those who sacrificed on the shores of France in 1944. That being said, I'd like to wish you a great day, and I hope to see you back here again for another episode of curios in time.